What's up, guys? Rant Roller at you again with another motorcycle video. This video, I want to highlight one of the greatest motocross racers of all time. That's motorcycles racing around a dirt track with jumps in it. Okay, one of the most entertaining forms of racing that we have here in the country and around the world. I got into motocross racing in the early 90s when I got into motorcycles, period. And at that time, the best racer was a guy named Jeremy McGrath, right? Once he got the lead, he wasn't giving it up, and he would just lead the whole race, from start to finish. He was a whole shot master. If those of you who know about racing know what a whole shot is. We fast forward a couple years down the line, as Jeremy McGrath got older, Ricky Carmichael stepped up and took his spot as the best motocross racer alive. Ricky Carmichael held that spot for about 4 or 5 years until a young quote-unquote African-American racer named James Bubba Stewart came into prominence. All right, and this is a follow-up video for the video I just dropped on why do guys in the city ride illegal dirt bikes in the street. I want to follow that video up with giving you an example why I feel like that's foolish behavior and that you should legalize the dirt bikes instead of just running from the cops all the time, getting your bike taken, getting hurt, maybe the cops beating you up and arresting you because you're in the street acting a fool. Those motocross bikes belong on the dirt. I'm not saying you can't change the wheels and put street tires on them and lights and turn signals and turn them into legal street bikes. But that was my whole point of the video, turn them into legal street bikes. In all reality, you're supposed to use them for this.
Who would you guys say is the most dominant athlete or are the most dominant athletes in sports today?
Tiger Woods, Michael Phelps,
LeBron James,
Kobe Bryant,
Usain Bolt.
Well, I got a guy who's not a household name, but he is as dominant, if not more dominant, than any athlete in any sport. He's been breaking records, breaking barriers, and making history since he was a little boy.
I know who you're talking about.
You guys remember Michael Smith before he got bamboozled by the young lady who was the anchor with him? Her name escapes me now for some reason, but she talked him into talking about all of that political Donald Trump rhetoric on ESPN and got them both booted off of a 6 o'clock Sports Center hosting gig. Michael Smith here.
Son has his poster on the wall.
All right.
I mean, with that generation,
So he is a household name in Tom Ferry's house.
That's right.
Okay.
James Bubba Stewart, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
This is a guy who makes his living on the dirt. He's the fastest man on 2 wheels.
This guy, James Bubba Stewart, you can look him up on YouTube. I have to keep pausing the video. It's not my video. I don't have the rights to it. So bear with me as far as that. But this guy, James Bubba Stewart, out of Florida, is one of the greatest racers of all time. He either usually crashed or he won. Pretty much that was it. There was no in between.
I don't ride with fear. Nobody's gonna go around the track faster than I can. I wanna win.
The reason I'm highlighting James is this is for the urban community, so quote-unquote young black and Latino and even young Caucasian street riders. Listen, this is a guy you can identify with, culture-wise, race-wise, who dominated the sport of motocross. Pretty much the way the Williams sisters dominated the sport of tennis and Tiger Woods dominated the sport of golf upon a time. This guy rose to prominence and purely dominated. He even invented a different form of racing style called the Bubba Scrub, where he would turn his bike pancake flat on jumps to keep a low trajectory, to keep his speed as high as possible over jumps, and he would scrub the top of the hill before taking off on the jump, thus called the Bubba Scrub.
are you the most dominant performer in any sport?
Yeah.
In the 85-year history of motocross, no one has ever seen anything like James Stewart.
James Stewart seems to be from another world.
James Stewart is the fastest supercross rider on the planet.
He's an 11-time amateur champion, youngest supercross champion, winner of 40 of his last 46 races, and the
Did you hear that? He was the winner at that time of 40 out of 46 races. Oh boy.
first African American to win a major motorsports championship.
And I hate that term whenever they say that in sports or anywhere in politics. Oh, the first African American to do this, the first African American to do that. Like if we're an inferior people that is incapable of achieving glory and greatness, that when one of us actually does it, it's an anomaly. I can't stand that type of rhetoric. But let's continue.
The 23-year-old Stewart is often compared to another dominant, groundbreaking athlete. And just like Tiger Woods, the driving force behind Stewart's success is his father.
My dad.
See that young black men out there, young Hispanic men out there, and even young Caucasian men out there. You see this? You fathers, you men, you got to step up and be fathers to your children. All right? Be fathers to your children and foster their greatness. Give them the confidence and the belief in themselves and the structure and the discipline to succeed.
I used to race when I was younger, so he didn't put a basketball in front of me. He put a motorcycle.
The day that James came home from the hospital, before I ever took him in the house, I crunk up my KX250 and I gave him a ride on the bike. He was 3 days old, but I kind of eased off the clutch and took off, and then I was one-handed holding him and riding the bike.
A lot of people want to dump on guys like this. Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's father, Serena Williams' father, all right, was instrumental in their life. Okay, Tiger Woods' father, and now the latest is LeVar Ball in the spotlight, and people want to hate on LeVar Ball because he's such a loving father who willed his sons to prominence, and of course his sons worked hard, but they took his lead. They took their father's lead. They listened to their father, and look what happened. They greatness. All right. It's very important to have us black and Hispanic fathers put, behind our children, not only with the discipline, but putting the structure behind them and putting the love behind them and the confidence that you have their back.
Stewart grew up in an all-black neighborhood in Winter Haven, Florida. His father worked at a packaging plant. His mother at a fast food restaurant. Stewart's parents bought him his first motorbike when he was 4 for Christmas. Father and son would often race at the all-white motocross track a few towns over.
He would come home from school and he would get on that bike and he would ride it to dark. I would have to make him get off of it. I said, why are you riding so much? I got to beat those guys. I got to practice. And that's what he did.
To support his son's passion, Stewart's father would work 70 hours a week on the graveyard shift, so he and his son could ride in the afternoon. To help pay for used racing gear, track fees, and fuel, James Sr. resorted to collecting bottles and cans for extra money.
Y'all see that? His father collected bottles and cans so that he could have money for equipment, for the bikes, for race fuel, for track fees, sacrificing himself and his life for what he saw in his son, the potential he saw in his son. It's a great thing, people. Learn from it.
My dad always wanted to be, superstar at racing. That was something he loved to do. But when I got started, we couldn't afford to race, so he had to pick and choose. And, he chose to take his son and make him.
Young James Stewart Jr., a rider we're seeing and hearing from more and more lately.
Was there any tight times out there for your partner?
No.
What are you going to do in the third moto?
Win it.
While his son was breaking records as an amateur, James Sr. says he shielded him from the reality that they weren't always welcome in a predominantly white sport.
I faced a lot. I remember we went to this track up in Alabama. The guy looked at me and he said, we don't raise niggers here. And I said,
not to bomb on you people of Caucasian persuasion, but a lot of you Southern whites are so scared to death of blacks. I don't understand. Was it guilt, or you guys had an inferiority complex? I don't know what it is, but a lot of you down south, quote unquote Caucasian people, are scared to death of quote unquote black people for whatever reasons. But let's get past all of that. Let's get to when he really got down and got busy here.
It's gonna happen. I guess in a sense, I'm so afraid of losing that I scare myself to win.
He is shot out of that starting gate like a bullet out of a gun.
Well, it looks like James Stewart has blown everyone away here.
Triple. How good is this guy?
James is the fastest guy for sure that's ever raced a motocross bike.
Ricky Carmichael is widely considered the greatest motocross rider of all time. Carmichael competed against Stewart before retiring in 2007 and says that Stewart takes risks most other riders don't.
It scared me because he's just going so fast. There's so many races he could have won just by backing it off, but I don't think he cares.
I'm just willing to push it to the edge. I said it before and I said it again. I'll die trying to win.
Now, you guys hear that? I'm going to stop the video here, right? You talk about get rich or die trying, like 50 Cent said. He said he's willing to die to win. Okay, not go out and rob and shoot nobody, mug nobody, sell dope in your community, poison your own community. None of that nonsense. A legitimate sport. He was willing to die to win. Now, a lot of you people could learn from that, man. Take your talents and your energies and your spirituality and everything and put it into something productive like this guy. Now, of course, he had his father behind him from day one. I know a lot of us don't have that. But if you're watching this video and you ain't got your parents behind you, you know what? I'm telling you as somebody who's in their mid-40s, persevere, man. Find a way.